Now, it's never really a good sign when I come out of a screening and tell myself, well, at least I didn't pay for it. And with that, I'm working with through another episode of The Road Mentor. My goal, as always, is to enhance the movie watching experience. So 21 Bridges, here we have this newest cop thriller produced by the Russo brothers. Of course, anyone familiar with Marvel, those are some directors behind some of the best stuff, some of the Captain America movies, and of course the last couple Avengers. So I was kind of curious to see what they would do outside the MCU. And we have here Chadwick Boseman, of course, Black Panther himself, who probably should have stayed in Wakanda instead of making his movie here, because overall it was okay. So Chadwick Boseman, he plays a New York detective who has a bit of a reputation for having a quick trigger finger, and he's tasked with chasing down a couple of would-be thieves turned cop killers who he needs to, make sure that they don't escape the island of Manhattan, because he assumes he only has a few hours before they escape and there's nowhere to be found. And he decides to close down all the subways and the train stations, and of course block all 21 bridges that lead in and out of Manhattan. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't a terrible movie, it's not a bad movie at all, but it's not very good either. It's very middle of the road. This is what your typical classic burgers and fries movie. Yeah, burgers and fries, it's a decent meal, it gets the job done, but at the end of the day, it's not a steak. And this movie is a clear example of that way. A kind of forgettable watch. I mean, as cop thrillers goes, it's middle of the road. There's nothing really new here. It's very predictable, and that's the movie's biggest problem, because from one side, and this is a mixed bag of a film, but on one side, in terms of the direction, we have a kind of not so a first-time director, but he's a first time as far as a feature film is concerned. He does a lot of TV, he did a couple episodes of Game of Thrones and so forth. And he does a good job for the most part. The action is well shot. And it's only about an hour and 40-minute runtime. And I'll give him credit for this. It's very well paced. I like the pace. There's a lot of action throughout. And he maintains a kind of kinetic energy throughout. You don't get bored, despite not being very interested in the story and some of the characters. So from that sense, it's good. And it's entertaining because of that. It's just one where, again, it's something you watch and maybe entertain and forget about in an hour. And ultimately becomes a watch. I think it's better to be seen at home as opposed to spending money in the theaters. Which is unfortunate, because I like Chadwick Boseman. He's good in the movie. He's got great screen presence. But I mean, the script kind of falls flat. I mean, again, it's not terrible. It's not horrible, but it's very bland. It's very, again, the attempts at twists and turns fail miserably, because from the first 5 minutes, you kind of figure out exactly who's who, what's going on, who's good, who's bad, etc. You're not really surprised about anything. It's so obvious, and some kind of interesting or really dumb decisions made here and there, things that didn't quite add up, essentially leading to a very just kind of generic script overall. Even Boseman's character, he's okay, he's fine, but you root for him, but there's nothing really else to root for. J.K. Simmons is in this, and I love J.K. Simmons, but he's not in the movie for that much. Taylor Kitsch plays one of the two thieves, and he's fine, I guess, and again, not a big deal. But there's no real standouts here. This movie itself is not a standout. It's a movie which, again, it's a good watch at home. I can't honestly say go out and rush to the theaters and watch it, but it is entertaining enough because of the pacing, and some of the action is fine. Again, it's one you kind of watch and kind of turn your brain off. It's a good movie to put in the background as you do something else, watching it at home. But to spend $10, $12, $15 to go watch it, not really. It's just, you're better off passing it, waiting till later. So ultimately, 21 Bridges, not a terrible movie, just a very mediocre but paint by numbers cop thriller you've seen 100 times before. So 21 Bridges, you guys are gonna watch it. If you do, comment below, let me know where you guys thought. And of course, if you haven't done so already, subscribe below and feed money to go to the movies and talk about it afterwards. See you guys next time.